Jyoti, you can put your videos on.
I'm trying this. I don't know what's happening here.
It's all right.
Okay, just a minute.
We
You
always
carry on. You carry on also.
Okay.
Okay, Bijinder ji, we are live now.
What's going on?
Okay. Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. We all have feelings. We are human beings, and the days we get up and we feel, oh wow, we are on the top of the world. We feel happy, and there are days we feel sad, and that's normal. Sometimes we feel healthy, sometimes we feel sick. Same way, if we are sick, we have a fever, or if we get hurt, we know it. But sometimes what happens inside, we are feeling sick, but we can't know it. And that's where it is. As we say in Hindi, जब आंखें रोती हैं तो दुनिया देखती है, दिल रोता है तो कोई भी नहीं देखता. So those are the things we all go through, and it's very natural, but we need to learn how to identify and how to live with that. So we welcome Dr. Dua, who is not only our member, but a very experienced psychologist who has been practicing in Australia, in many different places, and helped lots and lots of people. And so we are very proud and honored to have Dr. Dua with us, who's going to talk about mental health, anxiety, and depression. And hopefully we'll have time to get your questions, answer your questions. And not only now, but after even the talk, if you need help anytime, please feel free. We are there for you. And together, it makes it much better. We can cope with anything. Dr. Dua, we welcome you. And please, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vijinderji, and thanks, Asha, and thanks, everybody, those who are attending and those who might be listening otherwise. Today, I thought that I will talk about a couple of those mental health issues which are very common. Though in coronavirus time, these mental health issues are even more common than normally, but generally, actually, I think we hear people experiencing things such as anxiety, depression, stress, and many other mental health issues, but we will concentrate on anxiety and depression. Before I go to talk specifically about these issues, uh, let me make a general statement. I am just going to give a general talk in terms of what is the nature of anxiety and depression and symptoms and causes and treatments and strategies. But this talk is not meant to give specific advice to anybody who might be experiencing these issues. If you are experiencing any of these issues after listening to this talk, or even before this, if you feel you have been, uh, I think it will be best if you consult a health professional rather than taking this as a specific advice to you. I think I had to make this statement just so to be clear that some people might try these and something might or might not happen. However, let's get to the issue of anxiety and depression. And what I thought is that I might talk in English mostly, I suppose, but there may be some Hindi words now and then. Anxiety, which जिसे आप कह सकते हैं घबराहट या चिंता, डिप्रेशन जिसे आप कह सकते हैं उदासी या खिन्नता. That's a very difficult word for me also. I didn't know it was called khinnata, but I found this out. Generally speaking, anxiety is more common amongst women and amongst people of older age than of younger age. So anxiety is more common amongst women than men, and it's also more common amongst people of older age than younger age. Similarly, if you take depression, depression actually is more common amongst women also, and it is more common amongst people of younger age than older age. Having said that, let's look at anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is basically our body's natural response to stress. It becomes a problem when it significantly interferes with our life, when it turns our life upside down, topsy-turvy. It is, you could say, it's a feeling of fear, feeling of apprehension. क्या होने वाला है? ये मेरे पर कुछ दुख आएगा कि नहीं आएगा? And these feelings are normally very, very extreme. If these feelings, they last for more than 6 months, then technically speaking, you will say that you are suffering from an anxiety disorder. If they last less than 6 months in a row, that doesn't mean you're not suffering from anxiety, but defining anxiety disorder, that's a technical term which psychiatrists and psychologists use to classify somebody in terms of anxiety disorder. So you might not suffer from 6 months. Let's say you might suffer for 6 weeks or 10 weeks. That doesn't mean you are not suffering from anxiety. It means that you are not suffering from the technical term of anxiety disorder. So if it lasts longer than 6 months, that means you have what is called anxiety disorder. And as I said, you basically should look at not just anxiety, but also other mental health issues in terms of how much do these things interfere with your day-to-day life, like your work-related life, social life, family life, or any other aspect of life. If any of these issues, they interfere with your life in a very significant way, in the sense that they make it very difficult for you to function in that part of your life, then it is time for you to try and do something about it. And when I said do something about it, there are various ways in which you might be able to do something about it. These days, there are many resources available on the internet. For example, and there are also separate organizations such as Beyond Blue, Black Dog Institute. There is a society in America or association in America called Anxiety and Depression Association of America, or you can consult your doctor or a psychologist or a counselor. So, but that is if you feel that it is significantly interfering with your life and you are unable to cope with it. There are various types of anxiety disorders. I think some of the ones that people would have heard quite a bit. The main one is called panic disorder. I get many patients, who are suffering from panic disorder. Basically, panic disorder is where you have a tightening of the chest, you are sweating, there is no clear cause. Suddenly, you are moving about or you are sitting, and suddenly you start feeling really unwell. Either tightening of the chest or tightening of the upper part of your body, or discomfort, suddenly a feeling of intense fear that something bad is going to happen, breathing issues, dizziness also sometime, and as I said, nausea, and maybe even sweating, and issues related to sleep. So when you have something like this, sometimes people might even feel that they are having a heart attack. If you have panic attacks, I would sort of suggest, firstly, you should try to find out if there is nothing wrong with your heart system. In other words, go and see your doctor and maybe a cardiologist. And if they say, look, no, everything is okay, if the cardiologist and the doctor says, that means you seriously need to consider that you are suffering from panic disorder. This is one of the very common part of anxiety. Many people who suffer from anxiety also suffer from panic disorders. Then there are other types of anxieties like phobias. Phobias means fear of specific things, like some people have fear of flying. Other people might have fear of being in the lifts, fear of being in closed spaces, fear of, spiders, and various types of specific fears. The other common anxiety is social anxiety. Social anxiety is that people worry a lot of being judged by others. That if I go somewhere, if I give a talk, how are people going to judge me? Are they going to say, he doesn't know how to talk about things? Then you have social anxiety. If being in the presence of people, you feel worried and anxious, such that you might not even go there. You will rather find an excuse not to go to a party to which you have been invited, in case you make a fool of yourself. Or you might not find anybody who talks to you. That means you are suffering from social anxiety. The other type of anxiety that you must have heard is called OCD. OCD stands for obsessive and compulsive disorders. Quite often we are worried. For example, I left my home. Have I turned the water off? Are all the places, everything locked up? So then I might start thinking about it, and I might become very anxious. Obsessive and compulsive disorders, obsessions means our thinking, and compulsions mean the acts. So people who might have, say, a compulsive disorder of checking, before they leave home, they will check each and every door, each and every stove, each and every tap, and so on. And they will spend a lot of time. And even after they have done it, they will do it all over again. So obsessions means our thought processes about that. And compulsions means our acts. And many of these, they cause us a great deal of anxiety. Then you can have separation anxiety. For example, fear of being away from home, or fear of being away from loved ones. A very common type of anxiety, though I think it also comes under the heading of stress, is post-traumatic stress disorder, where you experienced a significant trauma in your life. For example, the death of a loved one, or for that matter, people who go to wars, being in the war, or for that matter, if you had a terrible accident, or something, or you were sexually abused or physically abused or put down constantly, then it is possible that you might have post-traumatic stress disorder, and one of the effects of that is anxiety. So actually, I think hopefully you understand the nature of anxiety, but if I could just repeat some of the symptoms of anxiety: increased heart rate, rapid breathing, restlessness, trouble concentrating on things, constantly thinking about something bad is going to happen to me. Or not just to me, something bad is going to happen to, say, somebody that I love, or something bad is going to happen somewhere which affects me. So thinking is a very important part in terms of anxiety. Then people who suffer from anxiety also have many sleep issues. They either find it very difficult to sleep, or they have disturbed sleep. Basically, a sense of apprehension, worry, distress, and fear. So I think you get the general nature. If you have these types of symptoms, and as I said, if they significantly impact on your day-to-day life, you need to do something about it. Now the question is, why do people feel anxious? Obviously, as psychologists, we like to think that the environment in which we are brought up, or the way we are brought up, and the environment in which we live plays a big role in anxiety, or for that matter, all mental health issues. But I think the body that we are born in, the DNA that we have, or you might sort of say the genetic system, our chemical system also plays a big role. So one of the causes of anxiety may be the genetics, the DNA system, the chemical system that you have, the chemical changes that might take place in your body. So that's the medical part of anxiety. On the other hand, as I said, the environment in which we live in, that obviously from psychologist's point of view, it's a very important contributor to anxiety. I gave many examples of that. And lately people are sort of now saying, despite the fact many of my clients tell me, look, I drink because it relaxes me. Actually, the fact of the matter is that people who drink a lot are more likely to be very anxious. And people who take a lot of drugs, for example, you would have heard how marijuana sort of relaxes us. And there are medical uses of marijuana that you would have read about. But if you consume marijuana to a significant extent, you're likely to have many mental health issues. And anxiety is one of those. So environmental influences, genetic influences, alcohol, drugs, and other types of things will cause you anxiety. If we have anxiety, what do we do about this? I mean, what are the treatments and what are the strategies? Look, if you go, for example, to a psychiatrist, who basically, many psychiatrists use psychological techniques, but they will quite often use, medication. If you go to a psychiatrist, especially if you are suffering from severe anxiety, and there are instruments that we can use to find out how severe your anxiety is. If you are suffering from severe anxiety, then the psychiatrist or the doctor might prescribe you antidepressant, a sedative or anti-anxiety type of medication. Obviously, I think those things can be quite useful, particularly in cases where anxiety is very severe, because it brings it down to a certain level so that the psychological techniques can then be applied more usefully. I wouldn't go into the side effects of medication, but I'm sure that if you are prescribed these, your doctor or your psychiatrist will talk to you about these medications. As far as the psychological techniques are concerned, basically the psychological techniques, are of two types. One are relaxation-based techniques, and the second ones are techniques that you will say, try to change the way you think about this world. Try to change the way you look at this world and you give meaning to where you are. Plus, there are other techniques, which I will also talk about, which are very useful, which are related to lifestyle changes. I think maybe if I could even talk about the lifestyle changes type of procedures or strategies, that people who are suffering from anxiety, we say, look, try to maintain contact with your friends, do exercise, join a yoga class, take part in meditation or practice meditation. Try to do things that you enjoy doing, engage in enjoyable activities. So these are, and eat good, healthy food. Take care of your physical health. So these are all lifestyle changes or other types of, you can put them in the heading of others, but they are very, very useful. They are part of any psychological or medication type of therapy. As far as the psychological techniques are concerned, basically, I think, as I said, they are relaxation and they are and changing the way you think. I think before I talk about changing the way you think, as you are part of these social media these days, as to how everybody tells you, be positive, everything will be okay, look at things in a different way. By and large, what they are saying makes sense. What happens is the way we think determines what sort of mental health issues we have. For example, if I keep on thinking, I'm useless, I'm never going to accomplish anything, my life has been a failure, then if I constantly keep on thinking these types of thoughts, the chances are, though we are talking about anxiety, but the example that I'm giving here, if I keep on thinking these types of I'm useless type of thoughts, the chances are I'll become depressed. So the type of thinking that you engage in determines what type of mental health issues you might have. Given that, it is therefore very important for us to try and modify to change our thinking. And the techniques which come under this heading, they are called cognitive behavior therapies. If you go somewhere, they'll say, I'm using CBTs. You would have heard these words. But basically, they are trying to change the way you view the world, the way you look at things, the way your thinking is. So see, these CBT types of techniques, these techniques also say, do not totally ignore or do not say, I do not accept that I'm suffering from anxiety. They will say, yes, accept that you are suffering from anxiety, but then commit, I am going to change this thing. And so there are specific procedures whereby we will, for example, ask you to write down the thought processes that you are going through. And if there is a pattern of thinking in you which is causing you anxiety, we sort of say, okay, let's attack these thoughts. Let's try and target these thoughts. Let's try to make you understand that quite often the thoughts that we engage in are irrational, not based on any evidence. For example, if I say that I'm a useless person, I have never achieved anything in my life, my psychologist will say, let's look at this. When you say you have never achieved anything in your life, do you own a house? Oh, yes, actually I own an apartment. You have achieved something there. Do you have children? Yes, I have children. Are they educated? Yes, they're educated. You have achieved something. In other words, quite often we engage in thinking which cannot be justified on an objective basis. So the psychologist will teach us to think rationally, to challenge the way we think. They will tell us, to think realistically. And that way they will try and change the way we think, and hence the way we feel or our emotion. And obviously a very important part is what is called the relaxation, meditation type of procedures. And actually what I might do is that I might talk about these procedures maybe towards the end, because they are also very useful in case of depression. So actually, I thought that since more or less we are towards the end of my talk on anxiety, maybe actually I could open it for questions. If people have any questions that they are thinking about, I'll try to answer these questions. Vijinderji,
yeah, thank you, Jagdish ji. Now, if people have the question, then if they raise the hand, then we can see them.
Bijinder ji, I'll make you a host now, so you can.
No, it's all right. We can see that if people want to.
I'll make you host so you have better control.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
I could have, I was, I said Bijinder ji. No, I didn't know who the host was. Thanks.
No, we both are, so it's good. We do it
If
jointly.
somebody has any question, I'll be very happy to answer.
Okay, I can see all the people. If there is a question, yes, Mankaji.
How chemicals, medicines can change the thought-provoking thing? How the medicines can change the thinking of a person?
See, actually, as I said, the medical treatments or strategies are based on changing the chemical aspects. For example, according to, say, psychiatrists or many medical experts, our anxiety is because there are certain chemical changes which are taking place in our brain or other parts, particularly the brain. And these medications are there to attack these chemical changes and change the chemical reactions in such a way which are amenable to a non-anxious type of thing. Actually, I think it will be important at this stage to very briefly say something about what is called psychosomatics. As you can very well imagine, psycho is psychological, somatic is body. There is a great deal of a very important relationship between the way we think and the way our health operates. So between the physical and mental health, there is a very important connection. These two things are related to each other. So if you take this connection, for example, if I'm thinking negatively, there might be some chemical changes taking place in my body. Similarly, if there are chemical changes taking place in my body, I'll start feeling anxious, and maybe my thinking will also turn to be negative. So actually, these things are related. But I think the basic answer to your questions is that the medication is directly there or to attack the chemical parts or the physical health
Right,
part,
Jagdish,
or the body part.
you're quite right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. But what is the medication neutralizes the antioxidant of the anxiolytic agents. By
Sorry, Dr.
neutralizing it-
Sundar, your video is off, and then I can see Pinky's video is off, Savita and Ashok Bedi. So thank you, Dr. Sundar. So if you want to put your video on, we can see you while you're talking. Otherwise, okay, we can still hear you.
Well, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's all.
What Bansal asked me that there are medication for anxiolytic. Just says they're quite right. These
Yeah.
medications neutralize the serotonin in the brain, chemical balance. By
Exactly.
doing that, you
Yeah.
feel a lot better short term, not for long term.
Yeah.
Counseling is the best solution for anxiety,
Yeah.
not medication.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That's a very good point. Thanks very much for clarifying that for us. Or actually, it's, how come I'm disappeared now? Something else has happened within
No,
the.
no.
Yeah, Mubina.
So, I don't know what is happening. We can see you, I can see you, but the whole
Yes, I
gallery
can see
view is,
myself too, but actually there is all this thing that has come through.
I don't know what is come.
I think the Facebook screen has
Yeah,
stopped.
yeah. The Facebook screen has come. You're right.
Stop sharing. You can stop sharing.
Vijender, you're sharing your screen.
Am I sharing the screen? So,
Or remove the pin of this.
let video. Okay, okay.
That's okay. Make me host. Me, I'll change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've stopped sharing that. Okay. It should be. Right. We okay.
अभी तक तो कुछ नहीं हुआ.
Don't know what happened उसमें. So it's gone to the Facebook.
No, it's not gone to the Facebook. It's you're sharing your screen. It is on Facebook, but that is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see you now.
You're
Well
back.
done.
Yeah.
अच्छा और किसी के पास कोई सवाल है?
Yes.
हाँ जी.
Anyway,
Dinesh ji.
Hi. I just, Dr. Dua, I was just curious about recently the Indian seniors, like seniors from any other community, are under a lot of anxiety causing possibly circumstances because of two reasons. One is that COVID itself, which is well known to be having the seniors as more vulnerable people. And the second one, I think is
Sorry,
that
sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. Can everyone mute themselves? There's a lot of noise coming. Please mute everyone.
okay.
Yes, go ahead, please. Yes.
All right. Shall I continue?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I have two questions. This first one, I was just curious that how many patients have you come across recently who are really afflicted by anxiety caused by the prevalence of COVID-19 in the seniors?
Dr. Dua, can you, is he muted? Mubina, maybe he's.
Yes, yeah, because I had to mute everybody. Okay.
Yeah,
Dr.
so
Dua,
we'll-
please accept unmute. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Dua.
अब आवाज आई आपको मेरी?
Now
Yes,
we
yes,
can
that's
see. Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Yes.
right. That's good. The answer to your question is actually, I think I am seeing many patients, and in majority of the cases, I mean, there are some cases who come to see me purely because of the anxiety caused by coronavirus. But in most of the cases, these patients have been seeing me before or have seen me before, and during coronavirus, their anxiety has increased.
Okay.
So those people who were already suffering from mental health issues during coronavirus times, they're finding it harder. Though there are some new cases, but generally it is actually the older cases whose coronavirus is now increasing their day-to-day anxiety.
So since they are your regular older patients, you may be able to help them a lot more than, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
good.
because
good.
I know their history and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, the second question I
Okay.
had was
Yeah.
that many of the Indian seniors, particularly, are living with their children, and so they do have some kind of dependence on the rest of the family, and that causes a lot of anxiety within their mind. But these days now, because they are more vulnerable to be getting coronavirus possibly, that might increase their anxiety still more. That maybe if I was living independently, I would be having less anxiety. Is there some connection you see in any of your patients?
See, actually, I mean, I think in many ways it's a very complicated question, because you said if they were living independently, they will feel less anxious. I think that people, generally speaking, who are living by themselves are more anxious than those who are living with their families.
Right.
Mainly because within the families, there is some sort of a support network available. Sometimes it can be a negative support network. If you ask your son or daughter to help you, they might ignore you, and that hurts you even more. कि जब आप बच्चे थे तो हम तो आपको दिन रात आपको बहुत ख्याल रखते थे, हम अब हमें आपकी जरूरत पड़ी है तो कहते हैं पापा बाद में कर लेंगे, चुपचाप बैठो, बड़ा काम करना है आज वगैरह वगैरह. But I think, though I think it is very difficult to answer this question, but the data that is there, that when you are on your own, particularly Indians and say Greeks or those who come from very strong family systems, Arab countries and Mediterraneans, those who come from strong family systems, when they start living on their own, they are more anxious because their support networks go missing. But obviously, if you are living with your family, then there are other issues that are there. But if one could have a scale in which one could compare being on your own, I think later on when I talk about depression, I'll talk about loneliness. When you're on your own, there is greater anxiety and depression. And in many cases, when seniors are living with their families, the anxiety is their anxiety, but it relates to what might be happening to my children and my grandchildren and so on. Look, actually,
Yes.
talk about depression.
Yeah, before you say Jagdish, just from our experience of informally talking to some of the seniors, what we realize also, this has been a very difficult period for a lot of our seniors, because those, especially those living with the other people in a way, and those alone are two different things. Now, living with them has been difficult because children have been working from home, grandchildren have been working from home. That means they had a lot of restrictions, and often the children have said, please don't go out, don't do this. So many of the people, as I said, there's not scientific evidence from some of the examples we know that they have been, some of people have been stuck in home for nearly 8 months, and some of them have their own room. They cannot come to the lounge room in a way because somebody is doing the meeting, or the children are studying, or they're making different noise. So it's a different kind of anxiety or depression coming. So in a way, even if we say, which I agree with Dr. Dua, that living with the family is wonderful. But on the other hand, some of the issues which are real, whether we admit or we don't, but are there. So this has been one of our concern has been for a lot of our seniors. We want to open our hubs as soon as possible. And in November, we are opening Crow's Nest, Wentworth Vale, and West Ryde is already open. We're trying to have these talks, we try to have music, but the fact is that some of them, I don't know the exact number, only had the phone they could, because there's one TV in the home that somebody else is using, computer somebody else is using. So they had the restrictions of how much noise they can make, how much talk they can do. So I'm just talking from some of the information that we have seen. Yes, it's been very difficult time for our seniors with COVID. So that's why we want that what we can help them and try to get back post-COVID. Will be help and support will be very important. And we are thankful to Dr. Dua and Dr. Sundar, Dr. Valanju and other doctors who are there who can assist us with all the professional help. Thank you, Jagdishji. So,
Okay, shall I continue?
yes, please.
Okay, the second thing that I think I want to talk about, which in many cases, many people think it's even more serious, though I think people who are suffering from anxiety wouldn't necessarily agree with that. First, and that's called depression. जैसे मैंने शुरू में कहा था उदासी या खिन्नता. If you had to say, and as I also said at the beginning, firstly, younger people seem to be experiencing more depression, by data that are available. And the depression is also more common amongst women as compared to men. Obviously, there is a, interaction between age and gender also. But by and large, younger people have more depression, and by and large, women are suffering from more depression, just like I said about anxiety also. अगर आपने depression को define करना हो, तो you will say depression is like feeling sad. People who are depressed are sad and very sad very often. They lack interest in anything. They keep themselves isolated. They're also suffering from anxiety. As a matter of fact, anxiety and depression go hand to hand quite often. People who are suffering from depression also have a sense of low self-esteem. अपने आप को सोचते हैं कि मैंने कुछ नहीं किया, मतलब मेरी तो जिंदगी खराब है. I am not going to achieve anything. You could say it's a type of self-loathing. So self-loathing, extreme sadness and regular sadness, loss of interest, lack of concentration, and feeling isolated. If you were going to talk about the symptoms of depression, you can understand symptoms will relate to the nature and definition of depression. But basically, depression is a mood disorder. People who have high depression, that means they have low mood and so on. So it has an effect on mood. People who are depressed are sad, as I said, they are irritable. छोटी सी बात उन्हें कह देता है, मतलब बहुत तंग जल्दी आ जाते हैं कि आप क्या करते हैं, मतलब मुझे आप पता नहीं तंग क्यों करते रहते हैं, क्यों मेरे ऊपर सारी प्रॉब्लम डालते रहते हैं. They are also very aggressive, can be very aggressive, and they feel empty. They have a sense of hopelessness. As I said, they lack interest in things. They don't enjoy life in general. They are, life is very difficult, very tough for them. Nothing is very good. The things that they used to enjoy, they don't enjoy. They don't have fewer hobbies. They don't have many friends. They are basically tired quite often. And I think a very serious thing is, many of them have what is called suicidal ideation, thoughts about suicide. They don't, and if obviously they have thought about suicide and they have worked out how they are going to do it. And if they have put in place various strategies to commit suicide, that is the most serious thing. And in that case, people have to be taken to the hospital or the police has to be called. ये अचानक ही double आने लगा. Can you hear this echo of my voice?
That somebody will have unmuted and making the noise somewhere.
No, I think it's my voice coming the second time.
Yeah, it's duplicate.
Yeah, it's duplicated.
It's okay now.
मेरे दो बंदे हो गए हैं.
Well, now that's good. We'll have double the help.
वो बता रहा था कि
नहीं, आपका अवतार आ गया है.
It is a double dose.
तो जैसे ये सब बताया था, उसके अलावा lack of sleep. And many, actually, I think it's very funny. Depressed people would either eat very little or they will eat a lot. Depressed people will either sleep very few hours or they will sleep hours and hours and hours. It's a dichotomy. It's sort of interesting as to how these things happen to them. They have headaches, and they also suffer from various types of physical illnesses, and they also have reduced interest in physical relationship with their partner. So these are the symptoms of depression. As I said, if you have some of these symptoms, for example, you ask yourself, in the last 7 days or 14 days, how many days have I had some of the major symptoms like sadness, suicidal ideation, sleep issues, lack of interest? How many days out of the last 14 days? And if you answer about 8 or 10 or more, you need to consult some health professional to help you with the depression that you might be feeling. As far as the causes are concerned, just like as I mentioned in case of anxiety, the depression causes, quite often people say depression runs in families. Now, I don't know whether it has anything to do with the, what you call the genetics. Most likely it is the environment. If you are in a family where your mother was depressed or father was depressed constantly, then you also learn, then you might also become depressed. So it might be running in the family either because of the environmental influences or maybe because of the genetic history in the family. So there is a family history. There is the brain structure, as I previously mentioned, the chemical structures. There is plus obviously people who take drugs quite regularly, particularly non-prescribed drugs, they are likely to be suffering from depression more than those who don't. As far as the psychological and environmental parts are concerned, lifestyle, the way our lifestyle can lead to depression, childhood trauma, the way we were treated by our parents, the way, if our teachers treated us, if we experience incredible trauma, and trauma, remember, is like, it's a personal thing. Suppose somebody, a parent tells their child, बैठ जाओ वरना मार दूंगा. कुछ बच्चे कहेंगे माँ ऐसे ही कहता रहता है ये, और किसी को अगर आपने कह दिया मार दूंगा तो उसकी जान निकल जाएगी, उसकी जिंदगी भर ये रह जाएगा कि चुपचाप बैठे रहो. तो वो मतलब जो है डिपेंडिंग ऑन हाउ यू रिएक्ट. लेकिन अगर आपको ट्रॉमा है किसी चीज से, then the chances are that you are likely to be depressed and have various other traumatic type of issues, but particularly childhood trauma, mistreatment, sexual abuse, physical abuse, being put down constantly, and a sense of helplessness will give you, depression. If suppose you want to know, do I suffer from major depressive disorder? I already said, look at your symptoms and see how often they occur. But if you say feel depressed most of the day, you have loss of interest in most things, you have lost a lot of weight or gained a lot of weight, or if, as I said, you're not sleeping much or sleeping too much, or, if you have a sense of worthlessness and suicidal thoughts, then you will sort of say you are suffering from, or a doctor might tell you, you're suffering from a major depressive disorder. The question is, how do we treat depression? Because it can be a debilitating condition. People who suffer from depression, they are in very bad ways, I can tell you that. As you can imagine, when you have a sense of worthlessness, helplessness, I cannot do anything about anything. I am sad all the time. I feel that life is not worth living. It is a very, very tough thing. How to treat depression? Once again, there are the medical treatments, as I previously talked in terms of anxiety. There are medical treatments and there are psychological therapies. Medical treatments basically are like antidepressant type of medication, and also sometimes anti-anxiety medications can help. Antipsychotic medications can also help with depressive symptoms. As far as the psychotherapy part is concerned, I think, remember I said there are some other techniques, and sorry, before going to psychotherapy, the other techniques are lifestyle. Like, I think it is very important that you move about, be active, take part in things, look after your physical health, create a safe environment for yourself, be informed so that you don't come to the wrong decisions about things, and enjoy things, take part in activities that you enjoy, even if you feel there's nothing in my life. What you have to do is you have to basically sit down with a psychologist or a counselor or a doctor. Can you hear me again twice?
Yeah. So it's the angle maybe you're sitting on.
Yes.
so actually, if that sort of thing happens, you are likely to be depressed. But if you engage in these activities, as I said, be active, make social connection with people, call some of your friends. But when you call them, don't talk about your depression. Talk in general terms about good old times, what you are going to do when coronavirus is over. Let's go out and have some lunch somewhere, and be active, socially active, be with your friends. And it is also very important you have a routine. Say to yourself, I know that if you are depressed, you are not interested in anything. So working on the routines is going to be very difficult, or calling somebody is going to be even more difficult, because you basically, don't move. You're sad, you're helpless, you don't feel any good. So you have to do these things gradually, that this month I am going to go out once with somebody. This is my best friend. I'll call them once. People say to me that, those who are depressed especially, that my friends don't talk to me anymore. Mainly because perhaps they have been talking to their friends about their depression, kitni life kharab hai, kuch bhi nahi hota, zindagi khatam ho gayi hai, kuch ho nahi raha. लोगों ने कुछ देर सुनी, 1 महीना सुना, 2 महीने सुने, 6 महीने सुने, उन्होंने कहा कि ये तो बोलता ही रहता है. So people stop talking to you. You have to gradually start these things. Gradual is very, very important. The change will be slow. In first month, it might be this much. In second month, that much. In 6 months, it will be that much. You have to remember that it's a gradual, slow change. So look after your health, keep social contact, have a structured day, say these are the things that I'm going to try to achieve. And finally, as far as the psychological is concerned, changing the way you think. As I talked about anxiety, remember this thing. Certain types of patterns of thinking cause depression. So you have to write down those thoughts, talk to yourself with the help of your counselor or the psychologist, try to change your thinking pattern so that it is more adaptive thinking. And finally, as I said, when I was talking about relaxation and anxiety also, meditation, mindfulness meditation, and relaxation are very, very important. I basically teach my clients a 3-step way, which is very simple. There are many, many ways of doing mindfulness meditation, but I basically tell them do these 3 things, and each part takes about 3 minutes, and do it a couple of times a day. Say, for example, quietly in a chair with straight back and relax each and every part of your body. Your arms, your legs, your shoulders, your neck, your forehead, relax everything. That's about 3 minutes. For the next 3 minutes or so, close your eyes and breathe normally. And for the next 3 minutes or so, take about 5 or 6 seconds to breathe in and concentrate on where your breath is. And about 5 or 6 seconds to breathe out and concentrate wherever your breath is. So breathe in and breathe out. Do that for about 3 or 4 minutes. So that one session, 3 minutes of relaxation, body relaxation, 3 minutes of normal feeling, and 3 minutes of concentration on your breathing, 3 or 4 minutes of concentration on your breathing. That's about 10 minutes. Do that a couple of times a day. And the better you become, the more you should concentrate on the last part, because we need to get rid of the thought processes which keep on interfering with our lives. So this type of a mindfulness meditation, though there are various other ways of mindfulness meditation and various other procedures also, but I think this type of relaxation meditation procedure make that, I would say, a cornerstone of your life. Do that a couple of times a day. And as you become good, do that a bit more. If you are going to the office, you have to make a presentation, do that for 5 minutes. If you cannot sleep, about 1 hour before you go to sleep, practice this. Obviously, there are other sleep management strategies also, but keeping yourself calm and relaxed and having a sense of, equanimity, that will help you a lot. So many of the psychological therapy techniques are based on changing, as I said, the way you think, plus also changing other parts of your life, like social contact, which I talked about under other, but having a routine of the day. Simply because it is coronavirus, that doesn't mean that we get up in the morning, not get out of our pajamas, not have any shower, don't go anywhere, just sit in the room or watch TV. No. Do things that you used to do when you were well and good. Do engage in the normal routine. But that doesn't mean if you don't do it 1 day or 2 days, you should say, I can't do it, forget. No. Do it 3rd day. The 4th day. Remember, gradual. The word gradual is very important. Change will happen, but it takes time. So hopefully I have talked about a little bit about how to manage your depression. And since it is 5:05, I think I should stop here.
Thank you, Jagdish ji. And definitely I can say one thing, please come to our social hubs. We have a lot of fun. You will not be depressed and you will not be anxious. We can sing, we can make you dance, you can have a nice food. So we'll be sending information. Is Dr. Valanju there? Dr. Valanju? Is Dr. Valanju there? Can I?
Mute to nahi hai, wo mute.
Mute, I think he could be on the mute.
Unko unmute kar dijiye.
Dr. Valanju, he can hear. Dr. Valanju? Can you unmute yourself, please? I can't hear that. Anyway, I was just going to ask him to thank the Jagdish ji. Thank you, a big thank you. Can we give them a big clap, please?
Oh, thanks.
Big applause. It's wonderful, and as Jagdish ji said, you know, it's like the way I look at is we keep on giving and giving. You know, whether it's our work, our family, our community, or the chores, and it's like a pot. We keep giving, and a day comes when we say, my pot is empty. I got nothing else to give. And that's where you feel, you feel lonely, you feel depressed, anxious. And there are ways of filling that pot by doing things, as Jagdish said, doing the things we like, meeting people. And that's the reason we try to have these social hubs, so that people can come and just be with other people. So now we open for questions. If there are any people, again, please put your hand up if you have a question, and I'm sure Jagdish ji will be more than happy to answer to you, please.
Sure.
So are there any questions? Yes, Reba, thank you. Yeah. Yes, Reba, you have to unmute yourself and you can, yeah. Have you unmuted yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can hear? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, nice. Thank you very much for all the points that have been given. Very nice. And myself, I've got one problem that I feel it's a problem, that when I do something, I think about something else. Two things together, they just come in, the thoughts. And then maybe say I'm here doing, preparing for Asha, something. And then I'll, oh yeah, I have to do that. In the meantime, only thinking about another thing. So two things are coming in, which sometimes troubles me. And then naturally you get worked up, yeah, because you may make a mistake on that side or make a mistake on this side. So that's it. Yeah.
I think
that's where I have a little problem.
The brief answer to this question is, Reba ji, mindfulness meditation.
So mindfulness, yeah, meditation.
The three steps that I defined, particularly the third step, I think that will be helpful. And I think it is quite possible that when you are engaged in two sets of thoughts, that when you are doing one thing and the other sets of thoughts keep on coming in your mind, it is possible that there is some unfinished and very important work, part of your life that you have not done, finished it. If these thoughts keep on coming, attend to that particular task and try to finish it. But if it just keeps on coming, some negative thoughts, then mindfulness meditation is the best strategy.
No, not necessarily negative, but yeah, that.
If they are interfering.
Yeah, I mean interference, you know.
That means that it is some unfinished work that you have to say, what are these thoughts? Or these thoughts are about, for example, something to do with the child, and maybe the child asked me to do something and I haven't done it yet. So it is perhaps unfinished business, and that unfinished, the thoughts related to unfinished business keep on coming through. So go and finish that business, and then those thoughts might also subside.
Okay, thank you.
अपनी यादों के घोड़ों को बंद करके रखिए तो अच्छा ही रहता है.
Hello.
Do we have another?
Hello. Can
Pruful, can we see?
Well, I can't see anything, but
we can't see you. But can you?
Can you? And thank you very much, Duaji. You as usual, you have been very good the presentation, and we. I think I better keep it short because there's a lot of talking here. But thanks a lot of, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed that. Okay. Okay. I'll hand it over back to you again, Bijinder ji.
Yeah. Mubina, we can turn off the Facebook and we can still continue with the questions. Thank you. Thank you.